April 28, 1945. A muddy Allied processing camp in western Germany. A 19-year-old enemy soldier steps forward and whispers a sentence that stops everyone cold. "Please, don't shame me." That sentence doesn't belong in the World War II story we think we know. It wasn't shouted. It wasn't defiant. It was afraid. So why was it quietly recorded in Allied medical files, and then buried for decades? And why did the enemy respond with mercy, when history tells us mercy had already run out? Tonight, we uncover the forgotten moment when total war collided with human dignity, and neither side was prepared for what happened next. The Third Reich isn't falling. It's collapsing inward, like a building whose supports have already burned. Berlin is being eaten block by block. The Red Army is inside the city. American and British forces surge east faster than maps can be updated. Roads vanish under humanity. Refugees. Retreating soldiers. Orphans. Units without orders. And buried inside that chaos, something history almost never slows down to notice. Hundreds of thousands of women are in uniform. Not nurses. Not volunteers. Soldiers. But nobody planned for them. By 1945, more than 450,000 German women served the war effort in uniform. Signals operators. Anti-aircraft crews. Drivers. Clerks. Radar technicians. They wear field gray. They follow military law. They live near the front, because by now, the front is everywhere. They are told three things. You are defending the fatherland. You are equal to the task. Victory is inevitable. What they are never told is what happens when there is nothing left to defend. When surrender comes, it doesn't arrive with instructions. It arrives with fear. Here's what nobody tells you. The Allied armies had detailed plans for prisoners of war. Entire manuals. But those plans assumed something. That prisoners were men. Captured by men. Processed by men. The Geneva Convention of 1929 talked about dignity. Medical care. Humane treatment. But it was written for a world that no longer existed. Industrial war mobilized everyone. Doctrine never caught up. So now officers on the ground faced a question no one had prepared them for. What do you do with female prisoners of war, when your system never imagined they'd exist? And the answer, whatever it was, would be decided not by policy, but by individual choice. Captain Eleanor Whitmore, U.S. Army Nurse Corps. She's not new to war. North Africa. Normandy. Field hospitals where the floor never quite dries. She's treated enemy soldiers before. Teenagers with 1,000-yard stares. Officers clinging to dignity while their world collapses. But nothing prepares her for the afternoon when trucks arrive carrying 143 German women. They step down slowly. Not defiant. Not angry. Braced. Whitmore writes later. Not combat fear. Something quieter. The fear of people waiting to see if the worst stories are true. And those stories were horrifying. These women grew up inside propaganda. They were told Allied soldiers were animals. That surrender meant humiliation, or worse. In the East, those fears were already becoming reality. Mass rape. Systematic violence. Entire cities terrorized. In the West, discipline was stricter. But the women didn't know that. All they knew was this. They were prisoners. They were women. And history had never protected either. So when they entered the processing camp, they didn't ask if something would happen. They waited to see what. Inside the camp, Whitmore meets with senior officers. A decision is made. Quietly. No announcement. All inspections of female prisoners will be conducted only by female personnel. No male guards inside the tents. Female interpreters whenever possible. Every step explained before it happens. By the standards of total war, it's small. But to the women lining up outside that tent, it feels like mercy. She's 19th in line. Her name is recorded as Greta M. Age 19. Signals auxiliary. 2 years earlier, she was training for office work in Hamburg. Then the war took her. She learned field phones, cipher machines, how to sleep through artillery. She retreated from France, then Belgium, then Germany itself. By the end, loyalty doesn't mean ideology. It means survival. And the women beside her. When surrender comes, her officer says one sentence: "Walk west. The Americans will feed you." Then he walks east and disappears forever. The inspection is clinical. Height, weight, documents, a careful pat down over clothing. No shouting, no threats. Greta answers mechanically, until Captain Whitmore explains the next step. A routine disease check. Greta must remove her tunic. And suddenly, she can't. Her hands shake. Her voice breaks. Bestimmen Sie Michigan nicht. Please, don't shame me. Tears fall silently. Whitmore stops. She sets down the clipboard. She sits eye level. "You are a prisoner of war," she says. "You have rights. No one here will harm you. This is a medical exam. Nothing more. The question isn't whether the words are true. It's whether Greta can believe them." Trust rebuilds slowly. But that night, word spreads. Tent to tent. Whisper to whisper. They have women officers. They explain everything. They give you food after. The enemy doesn't behave like the monster they were promised. For the first time in years, these women experience something rarer than victory. Decency. Quick pause. If stories like this matter, stories history quietly hides, hit like. It tells the algorithm this is worth remembering. And if you want more human stories from the darkest corners of war, subscribe. Now, here's the part that complicates everything. These women served a monstrous regime. That doesn't vanish. But neither does this. When everything collapsed, orders, ideology, certainty, it wasn't power that defined this moment. It was restraint. Captain Whitmore didn't end the war. She didn't redeem it. She simply refused to add another wound. And that choice, quiet, undocumented, outlived the propaganda on both sides. Because wars aren't remembered only for how they're fought, but for how they end. And sometimes, history turns not on victory, but on a whispered plea. And someone choosing to listen.